Hello everyone. So now I'm going to talk about our smart contract, which can be used in the real estate business. And this presentation is by Pirmin and Manuel Baez. So the mission for our smart contract is basically to provide micro real estate investment trust with property management, one contract, one home. So how does it work? Well, basically imagine that you have the government who is in charge of titles for properties, and what they want to do is they want to use and deploy our smart contract. And let's say you have an asset which can be a house, an apartment, anything, and they want to tokenize it for 100 CH1 tokens. And you also have the owner. Basically what happens is that the owner has an address which then can be used to communicate with the smart contract. Basically now the government says, they deploy the contract and they say, hey owner X, now you are the owner of asset 001, which is represented by 100 CH1 tokens. Another cool thing about this contract is that you can have multiple owners or shareholders, so other people can invest in, if you're the owner in your apartment, in your house, and later we can see the benefits of doing this. So now let's say that we have some shareholders who want to invest in this property. So each one of those shareholders, in this example we have 3, they want to purchase 20 tokens, 5 tokens, and 15 tokens. So what they do is they interact with the smart contract and they basically purchase the shares that the owner offered. If the owner allows it, then the transaction will happen. So now we can see that the owner has only 60 CH1 tokens, while the shareholders have 25 and 15. And that can be seen under the new balances as well, under the asset. So now let's say that we have a tenant who wants to rent our apartment, our house, and we have multiple owners, so shareholders and the owner. So in this example, it's the same. We have the owner with this address and the balance of 60 tokens, while the investors have 25 and 15. And the government tax rate is 20%. So now the tenant says, okay, here is 1 month of rent, which in this case is 100 Ether. Automatically, 20% is going to go to the government. And the rest is going to stay in the smart contract under accumulated payments. After that, then the owner and the investors can withdraw the rest of the money, which in this case would be 48 Ether to the owner because they have 60%. And then the rest would be basically 16, 4, and 12. So some of the main functions of this smart contract is that it tokenizes real estate. It allows the purchase of shares between shareholders. It allows property rental. The taxes are automatically deducted from incoming rent payments. And the revenue is distributed to shareholders based on percentage of ownership. And here you can see the roles and capabilities and restrictions, but I will not go into detail in this slide, but we can see it later. And now we're going to show a demo.
We have the 4 roles of government, main property owner, shareholder, and tenant, with the following starting balances. Our token supply is set to 100, representing 100% of our tokenized home. Anyone that wants to hold tokens needs to be in the stakeholders array. Addresses can be added to the stakeholders array only by the government. The government can also ban stakeholders from the stakeholders array and seize their assets or distribute accumulated funds. We will require any incoming rent payment by the tenant to be divisible by the total supply to the power of 2. Since first any incoming rent payment is divided by the total supply multiplied by the tax rate to generate the tax income to the government, and then added to the revenues of the government. And later, in the distribute function that is only executable by the government, funds are distributed. We can see that the accumulated value, which is the remainder from before, is divided by the total supply times the number of shares, and then added to the revenues array for each stakeholder. This way we can split the incoming revenues from the rent payments of the tenant without producing a remainder that then would be stuck in a smart contract, since Ethereum doesn't support any float calculations. Let's add the shareholders account to the stakeholders array with our government account. Oh no, we don't have time for this! It has been added. The main property owner has 100 shares by contract deployment. Let's offer some shares with our main property owner account. We are going to offer 20 shares and the price is going to be 0.01 ETH per share. The shares have been offered. With our shareholders account, let's buy 20 shares from the main property owner with our shareholder account. It is important that we have the correct value. 20 shares times 0.0 ETH is 0.20 ETH. With our main property owner account, we will set the rent per 30 days required to 1 ETH. Let's check. Was 1.5. It is 1 now. We can also check how much our tenant address has remaining in his rental contract. He has paid for 87 days more from now on. Now let's pay some rent. With our tenant account, we will pay 1 month of rent. Our message value will be 1 ETH, since the rent for 30 days is going to be 1 ETH. Let's take a look before to our accumulated account, which is 0 right here, and the revenues of the government, which is 0 right here. Let's pay the rent now. The rent of 1 ETH has been paid. Let's check the revenues of the government. 20% of 1 ETH, which is 0.2 ETH. The accumulated value is 0.8 ETH. Now let's distribute the accumulated value to the remaining shareholders. Therefore, we have to select the government account and we have to distribute the funds. Let's check the accumulated account again. Let's check the main property owner, 64, because he has 80 shares and 80% of 80 is 64. Let's check the shareholder. It is 16. Let's check our current tenant and his rental status. He paid for another 30 days. Let's check. Let's withdraw our money. First, the governmental account. We have 0.2 ETH in the bank. Let's withdraw. We have received 0.2 ETH. Let's check our revenues. It is 0. Main property owner. It is 0.64 ETH. Let's withdraw. We received 0.64 ETH. The shareholder. It is 0.16. Let's withdraw our money.